Hello, everyone. My name's Tommie C. I'm here with Shannon now. We're going to be talking Australian football, Matildas, W League, and A League now. So, Shannon, welcome back to the pod again. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me back.
Mate, so plenty of Australian football, generally speaking, to cover today on the pod. Let's start with the Matildas, shall we? They played their first game in, I think it was almost 400 days, obviously due to COVID and the fact that I guess a lot of the girls now are overseas and that I guess they're split between overseas and the W League now. But, mate, how excited for this were you?
I was really excited. I think I annoyed my girlfriend a little bit because she had a long shift at work. She was very tired, and I was just, excitedly full of energy around the house at that time of night, just talking for like an hour about the Matildas players. So yeah, I was pretty pumped for this one.
Mate, I hear you. And there were a lot of people, I think, on social media that were sort of in a similar vein as well. Lots of people that were excited. But it turned out to be a little bit of a false dawn, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly showed that it was the first match in about 400 days, that's for sure.
I've got to say, it almost felt like 400 years because the girls looked pretty rusty, I thought.
Yeah.
If anything, and probably the ultimate insult I think that I can give to the Matildas in this game was that it reminded me a lot of a sort of a mid-2000s Socceroos game, in the sense that everyone was really excited. We haven't seen them play for ages, and we were really enthusiastic. Maybe we're a little bit naive in sort of what we're expecting from the performance, and then they rocked up and pretty much, I would say they got outclassed, though. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it was one of those things that where us as football fans, we hadn't had international football in so long. We sort of forgot, the fact that this is a Matilda squad who hasn't been together for that long, facing a very good Germany side who, they've played all these games while the Matildas have been off due to COVID. And it was kind of naivety just because we were so excited for it. And yeah, we were outclassed, but there are some positives I guess we can take from the match. There was 3 debuts, and the scoreboard ended up working later on in the match, so that's a positive.
That was really jarring when all of a sudden there was a scoreboard. It was like, hey, I just realized that there wasn't one before.
Yeah, it was very strange too, because I don't know if it was on ABC as well, but with Fox Sports, they put Ger W versus Oz. So everyone was making jokes about Germany.
I just assumed it was like German women's team, but you're right. It was strange. You mentioned there were some positives to come out of the game. Other than the 3 debutants, were there other positives that you drew?
It was good to see Emma Checker get on. I'm a big fan of hers. Emily Jilnick got 2 late goals, which, the game was already wrapped up by the time she scored the goals. But a player coming off the bench getting a brace in international football isn't anything to be sniffed at.
Totally agree about that last point, because like friendlies are all about performances and getting minutes together and that kind of thing. So I think she's really taken a big step forward, I guess, for her chances as well in the next few Matildas games.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know this coach Gustafsson, it's his first match, and some people were saying he was a bit critical of the level of quality in the W League. But the fact that the players who ended up contributing to goals were all W League players. They got assists from W League players, goals both from a W League player. It might make him rethink his opinion of the W League, so that's a positive.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard this in the past about, 10, 12 years ago with the Socceroos as well, and I just hope we're not going to now have a repeat of that whole debate about whether or not the W League's good or whether it's not good by our national team coach sort of play out in the media, because that was really tiresome 10 years ago, and I think no one really wants to go through that again. I think if there was one thing that stood out for me, and I didn't catch this until quite late on, was that since we've last played since the Matildas have last played their match, the German side have played 8 games. And I think once I saw that stat, then all of a sudden a lot of things sort of started to fit together. And I felt like I understood the context of this match a hell of a lot more and the result of this match a hell of a lot more. Mate, was there anything else that really stood out to you, positive or negative?
Well, I'll just say full credit to the German side. Taking away the fact that I was obviously going for the Matildas, when I started to focus on the way Germany were playing more so than the way the Matildas were playing, they were an absolute joy to watch. They was moving the ball quickly. Their attack was brilliant. It was very unpredictable. I did feel a bit sorry for Hayley Raso, who, she's probably one of my favourite players, male or female.
Ribbons, yeah.
Stuck at right back. She's one of the most exciting attacking players you'd ever see on the pitch. An absolute joy to watch. And I felt bad for her because all the attack from Germany was going down that side during the first half, and it was pretty lucky that we ended up losing 5-2, but at half time it was only 1-0. So yeah, I did feel a bit sorry for her, but the German team were very, very good to watch from a football point of view.
I agree, mate. That I can't remember her name, but the young lady who came on, I think it was on. She was a debutante that came on and played on sort of like high on the left, and she just absolutely tore us to shreds. She was tall and good on the ball and quick, and it was just no one could get near her. It was pretty impressive to watch, and you thought, wow, like that's sort of the next German generation that's about to come through. And you just wonder, I guess, if the Matildas are able to keep up with, I guess, these elite teams in the next 5 to 10 years. So. Fingers crossed for that. Of course, the Matildas. Of course, the Matildas are going to be playing, hopefully, at assuming it goes ahead at the Olympics later this year. So, I guess I would hope that the Matildas are going to have more games coming up in the next few weeks and months as well. So, hopefully, we'll be able to see the girls again soon, and they'll be able to put some good performances together in the lead up to hopefully taking home a medal in Tokyo. Anyway, mate, before we get into some A-League, there's a pretty big game on in the W League today, isn't there?
Yes, the grand final. Sydney FC versus Melbourne Victory, the Big Blue. You always love to see it. Usually people prefer first and second on the ladder in a grand final. But the way Melbourne Victory has been playing, even though they finished third in the W League, I'm very excited to see them play against Sydney FC today.
Well, and I think like everyone likes to see, like you say, that big rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne Victory. We know that it's going to be spicy, and it being in a grand final as well. I think we'll just add a little bit of extra spice to this match as well. Sydney finished first on the ladder. Melbourne Victory finished third. Who's your pick for who's going to take out the big prize today?
I'm going to say Melbourne Victory. I know Sydney FC have been pretty dominant all season and for a couple of years in the W League. But Melbourne Victory have hit form at the right time, and the way they're playing is just, it would take a very good performance by Sydney FC to stop them, in my opinion.
Get a score prediction from you, mate?
I'm always bad at score predictions. I'm going to say 3-1. Kira Cooney-Cross is going to get woman of the match, player of the match, whatever you want to call it, because she's by far the best player in the W League, in my opinion.
Woo, big call. Hopefully, she can put her best foot forward in the grand final, and I guess Tony Gustafsson. He will be watching as well, so it'll be an opportunity for her to really put herself in the shot front window for I guess not just an overseas contract, but also for the Olympics too. Alrighty, let's cut to some A-League now. So 5 matches have been played in this round, and also at the tail end of midweek of last week's round. We'll start with the game from midweek, though. Sydney hosted Perth in what arguably could have been seen as a seemingly straightforward 1-0 win for Sydney. It did boil over into something far stranger. A tidy goal from Costa Barbarouses was just the prelude to light failure and early showers for the players, except for those who needed to stay on the pitch in the Lightning to do breast duties. Of course, that was also followed by Richie Garcia's presser. That presser is got to be one of probably the all-time great A-League press conferences, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and he had a point too. There was about 2-3 minutes left of the match, and I'd be filthy if they called the match off because of player welfare, and then they had the same players stand on the same pitch do interviews. It was just a bit bizarre.
Well, and he's 100% right. Like, I don't know why they. I mean, I guess on reflection, I don't know why they do the press conferences on the pitch. Is it because of, I guess, like a lack of facilities, or what is it?
I guess more so convenience, but when you got a thunderstorm, a heavy rains, talking about player welfare because of the risk of getting hit by lightning, surely you can just move them, under the covers or somewhere more safe.
Well, I can't remember the last time there's been a game and at the end of the match it's been absolutely bucketing down with rain. But I think, what do they do? Do they just get out the umbrellas or something? Or can you remember something like that happening recently?
Not recently, but I remember a game where it got flash flooded. I think 2013 Brisbane Roar versus Wellington Phoenix. Nick Meredith was a sideline reporter. And he took his shoes off. He had his pants rolled up. He had the umbrellas going. He was standing in a puddle of water. And that's just stuff you love to see as a fan, the shithousery aspect of the A-League.
Yeah, I think lots of people would love to just see Nick Meredith just soaking wet, standing in the rain. Oh, mate. It was I guess in terms of the result, though, the result did leave. It was another 3 points for Sydney, who continued their charge up the ladder, but also another disappointing result for Perth as well, as they continue to, I guess, sort of flounder outside of the top six. Macarthur, they hosted Brisbane on Saturday, Christian on Friday, as part of the first game of this week's round. The McBulls hope to strengthen their grip on second spot. But it was a bit of a case of they just kind of choked, really, didn't they? They didn't really show up at all.
Yeah, they really struggled to deal with Brisbane's pace, in my opinion, and just their passing in the first half in particular. It was just, they kept pass. I don't know how many times they gave away possession, but it would have been a lot. It was very frustrating to watch from a neutral point of view because I'm not a fan of either team. Just trying to wait for a passage of play to happen. It would start to build up. Both teams would get 1 or 2 passes, just give it away. So Brisbane probably could have had 5 or 6 in the first half alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, particularly Dylan Wenzel-Hall, he could have had a hat-trick in this game and probably would be disappointed that he didn't end up with a hat-trick, because I thought he was getting into great positions, and arguably I think of the 3 clear-cut chances that he did have, he probably scored the hardest one, which was beating Federici from distance early on.
Yeah, I was watching this one with my girlfriend, and I was trying to... There was one where he missed it one-on-one, and I was trying to explain to her, I was probably trying to defend Dylan Wenzel-Hall for missing that one, saying a lot of the times when they have more time to think, they generally miss it worse. But then she asked me... She asked me, would a player miss that one in like a World Cup or a Premier League? And I said yes, but in my heart I knew, that was just very poor quality by Dylan Wenzel-Hall there.
But I think from memory, that was the one where he tried to dink it over the advancing Federici. Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking at the time, like, yeah, he's put that. I think he put it over, didn't he, from memory?
Yeah.
And it's a skill that's more difficult than it seems, because you've got the keeper rushing out, so you've got to get it over the keeper, and that's what most players are trying to focus on. But then you've got to make sure that it comes down in time to go in the goal, which that requires, I guess, a lot of what would you call it? Requires a lot of skill and a lot of patience, a lot of calmness to be able to get it up and down while you're running at full speed, and to beat the goalkeeper as well. So I actually agree with you. I think that that Dylan Wenzel-Hall, whilst that was the hardest one to get, that was still a pretty tricky one.
Yeah.
Mate, Markel Sassueta also was missing for the Bulls from this one as well. Is it a case of no Sassueta, no party for the Bulls?
Well, it's seeming that way because I think every time he's not been in the squad, they have played absolutely poorly, which you wouldn't think a wide player would make that much of a difference to the squad. You'd think it would be more those central players, but they just can't seem to control the tempo and the pace of the game without him on the ball, which, that's very bizarre from a football point of view, in my opinion.
Well, it's even interesting that you described him as a wide player because he pretty much plays wherever he wants. Like he plays, he'll sometimes pop up out wide. Sometimes he'll dribble through the middle. Sometimes he'll receive the ball next to Benyat in the middle and quite deep, and you sort of think he's just got complete sort of free license to run pretty much wherever he wants, which is actually pretty interesting because I think at City last year they really tried to use him as pretty much an out and out winger, sort of opposite Craig Noon, and it didn't really work particularly well. And I think this is working really well for Sassueta. You can see that he's obviously got a lot of responsibility, and he's very important to that team because, like you say, he's really important at setting the tempo, and it's great to watch a great footballer being used properly.
Speaking of great to watch and a great footballer, Riku Danzaki, every match he just seems to get better and better. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the A-League's getting quite a big Japanese following because of Riku. There's people on YouTube who put up, I don't know how they do it, they put up clips that get 50, 60, 70,000 views where they've just clipped every touch he's done during the match. So he's definitely a player to watch for the future. Brisbane Roar can get him, 2-3 seasons on a loan. I think they'll get a lot of good fans from Japan.
That is a great point, and I guess in the there's a couple of young Japanese players that have come into the league this year and are all doing really well. But that's, I guess, an overlooked part about the broadcast rights discussion is the value that we're potentially getting from overseas as well. And if we're able to if the league, broadly speaking, is able to get a little bit of a financial boost from the likes of Japan, it could actually be really beneficial to the league. And you spread that over the world, it starts to make sort of the performance of the local broadcast deal to be actually not as important as we're kind of making it out to be. We're comparing sort of the domestic rights price for the A-League versus NRL and AFL, but let's not forget that those leagues aren't broadcast anywhere else outside of Australia. So it's another, I guess, another feather in the bow of the A-League, the fact that it is the world game and it does have the ability to tap into a whole bunch of markets that the other leagues can't necessarily do. Alrighty, mate. Let's move on though. So to the first game of our triple header was Newcastle versus the Victory. Victory got the 2-1 win here up at Newcastle. They leapt from 12th up to 12th on goal difference with the win. Victory actually showed pretty good heart, pun intended, to come back from 1-0 down in this one, didn't they?
Yeah, I thought they showed very good team spirit, particularly getting outplayed in the first half by Newcastle. Newcastle realistically should have had a couple and put the game to bed, but it was still 1-0. They come out the second half and they were a completely different team. Took advantage of the fact that it was only 1-0. Somehow ended up winning the match.
But they all count though, don't they? Like even dud goals. But you're right. I thought it was reminiscent, I guess, a little bit of Manchester United in the Premier League in the sense that Victory were terrible in the first half, completely outplayed, like you said, and then in the second half they came out a different side and they brought on some younger players and they just managed to get the win despite the fact that they only really played well for probably 30, 40 minutes of the game. But look, that's probably something that Victory haven't had this season, is the ability to, I guess, find key moments, make the most of them, and I guess convert that into points and turn it into wins as well. A stat for you though, Newcastle have played 16 this season. They've lost 11, and it's their 7th 2-1 loss of the season. Are the Jets the Sheffield United of the A-League?
Well, yeah, based on that, I think they would have to be.
It was strange because, like you said, they were quite good in the first half. They created good chances. They couldn't convert them, and it ended up really hurting them. And ultimately, I guess it came down to the fact that they couldn't convert their good chances and turn that into, I guess, a more sizable lead. Would be really disappointing for Jets fans.
Yeah, it must be very not just frustrating but depressing being a Jets fan because when I watch the Jets, I can see that there's something there. Well, it's not quite there, but it looks like it's almost there. But
They're
for
right on the cusp, aren't they?
the past 7 or 8 weeks, I think they've lost seven in a row now. It's just been almost there, almost there, almost there. And you'd almost rather lose, by 4-0 than have these 2-1 losses that gives you that little bit of hope where you're just thinking, we're almost there, just another step away because, you don't want to end up finishing with the wooden spoon being that team that's almost, good enough to get those wins and draws.
It does remind me a little bit of Central Coast, say, last year, where you were sort of thinking, oh, they're right on the cusp of turning a lot of these close losses into draws. And if you start turning close losses into draws, you start turning draws into wins, you can see Central Coast have demonstrated this year how quickly you can go from being the at least mathematically worst team in the league to being in finals contention or even in the top two, I guess, the Central Coast are going this season. So I guess hopefully Jets fans aren't completely heartbroken by this situation, and they're able to see, I guess, that things can turn around in the future, as have turned around for the Jets this year. One source of frustration for Victory fans, though, has been, I guess, the performance of their imports this season. Butterfield, I think, has been pretty average. It's probably pretty generous to say that, but Falami, what did you really think of his performance in this game?
I thought he was a lot better than what he's shown in previous weeks, but his fitness doesn't seem to be quite there yet, which is a bit strange. Because I don't know if he's had too much injury worries, but he's a young player. And he's just, whenever it comes to the 50, 60-minute mark, which is very early in a match, if he starts, he just looks like he's run out of legs already. Reminds me a lot of Tom Rogic, obviously not up to the same skill level as Tom Rogic, but fitness-wise.
Do you think that's a fitness thing or an attitude thing? Because he just seemed completely uninterested in doing a lot of defensive work.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because like a player like him, as exciting as he looks when he gets on the ball, you're a part of a team. You've got to go back and defend, especially when your team's having the troubles of what Melbourne Victory's having. You look at a team like Central Coast Mariners, for example. The difference between them and a Melbourne Victory is when a team's attacking them, you'll see a player like Matt Simon back in the box blocking a goal. You'll see, all these wide players, Alu Kowal, running back like 30, 40 meters to try and defend. But with Victory, it seems like a lot of their forward players and even midfield players, when the ball gets by them, they've just got their heads down and they're just like, not my problem. Good luck, defenders. Good luck, goalkeeper. And I think that's the difference between a team that's first on the ladder and a team that's, 11th or 12th.
We've seen that in previous years where even a world-class talent such as Del Piero or something like that comes into the A-League, and if you're constantly defending with 10 players because your 11th player thinks that they're above tracking back or pressing, then it makes it really, really difficult. And I think Sydney FC, for example, when they had Del Piero, I don't think they made the finals in either year, or they maybe just scraped into the six. So an indication of, I guess, it might put extra bums on seats, but it's not necessarily a recipe for success on the pitch. The main course of Saturday's triple header served up a really tight, high-quality contest between two teams in good form, though. There was Sydney versus Melbourne City. Costa Barbarouses scored his second in just a few days to open the scoring. Curtis Good was unable to clear the ball whilst he was behind the goal line. Seeing that, I think that was the second time that's happened this season. I can't remember if it was the A-League or the Premier League, but how frustrating was that for you as someone watching this game?
Yeah, it was very frustrating. Not so much the goal that happened. It was the fact that it took so long to decide whether or not it was a goal. And I was just wondering what was happening because it was clear, well, clear to me at least, that the ball went over the line. And then I was thinking maybe they're looking at a possible foul on Glover. Then I watched the replay once, and it was clear that he'd made a mistake and he dropped the ball. So why it took 4 or 5 minutes to even decide whether or not that was a goal was a bit frustrating for me. I don't know if any other fans would agree with that.
Yeah, you're right. And this was, I guess this was a pretty wild few minutes of, there was sort of 15 to 20 seconds where the ball just absolutely pinballed around the City penalty area. But then it wasn't clear if it had gone over the line or not. And of course, in the A-League, we don't have goal line technology either. We've got VAR, but no goal line technology. So it was a pretty, I guess, annoying and confusing few minutes there whilst, like you say, they were reviewing if there was a foul. And it wasn't even particularly obvious or clear, I should say, whether or not the ball had actually crossed the line. I thought for a moment we might have seen a repeat of Robbie Slater getting out there with the ball and saying how the ball had obviously crossed the line because of some dodgy camera angle that Fox are giving us. But I think I'm pretty certain it was a goal, but I guess we just can't be sure, I guess, whilst there's no goal line technology and there's only one terrible camera angle. I've got to say, though, out of all of the video or, I guess, technology that they've brought into football, goal line technology is just the simplest one that is probably the most obvious one and the most successful one that's been implemented, and yet we don't have it in the A-League, and instead we've got a severely, I guess, undermined VAR by the fact that we've got so few camera angles. So we've kind of got the worst of both worlds at the moment as far as technology in the A-League and refereeing. Yeah. All right. So City did push and they probed, and they did. I've got to say they looked unlikely to equalise. However, it was ex-Sydney youth product Marco Tilio who won the penalty for Jamie McLaren to score and equalise deep in injury time. Mate, Marco Tilio has been incredible when he's been given an opportunity for City. Do you think that he's surely got to be knocking on the first team door now for City, or do you think he needs to continue to bide his time?
Well, here's the thing about City. They've got such good, talented wide players. I know Tilio can play either wing or even in the middle of the park. But would you say he's better than Noon, Naboo, even McLaren? It's tough to say because we only see him for these little short snippets when defenders are tired, and he looks electric. But I don't see what City have to lose if they want to rest Andrew Naboo for a game and give Tilio a bit of a run, because rather than just asking these questions, is he good enough to start and play first team football, chuck him in there, have a go, see what he's made of, because every time he's been off the bench, he's absolutely brought an X factor to the game, and he turned the game on its head against Sydney FC. But I will say that was a bit silly from someone as experienced as Alex Wilkinson to dive in like that with seconds left in the game. It reminded me a bit of Lucas Neal versus Germany, not Germany, Italy 2006.
Mate, you've just triggered probably 3/4 of our listeners with that comment.
Well, it was a penalty in both instances.
Oh, mate, I think,
right?
Mate, for the 3/4 of the listeners that were triggered before, now they've just switched off, I think.
I'll just turn notifications on my phone off for about a week.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that Shannon's on Facebook and Twitter if you want to let him know that you don't think that was a penalty either on Saturday or in the World Cup 15 years ago. But mate, yeah, pretty good shout. I think Alex Wilkinson, obviously one of the most experienced and successful defenders in the A-League. Yeah, he probably should have done better there, considering I guess the timing as well in the match. But yeah, wow. Robbie Slater did actually point out one interesting thing about this game. I can't remember who he was talking about, but he threw out the expression "form is temporary, class is eternal." Is class eternal or is it permanent to you?
I always heard the saying is form is temporary, class is permanent, but maybe that's because I played the FIFA video games too much, and that's one of the... They only have a couple of sound bites they use over and over again. That's one of the ones they use. But yeah, I've never heard it said that way before.
Me either. And even, I mean, I'm not Speedy's biggest fan, but Speedy also jumped in to say that he thought it was permanent. And so I've got to say, Robbie, you're wrong. So it definitely is permanent. So I don't think if anyone thinks that it is eternal, then please jump into our mentions or add us on Facebook or Twitter and let us know that you think Robbie was right.
You'll just get 20 notifications from Robbie Slater sock puppet accounts telling you he's right.
Mate, probably. Finally, the third of the triple header served up a real sweet treat. 2 goals, 2 red cards, but I've got to say it was probably a bit of finish for Western Sydney, who will feel that Bernie Beanie should have won the game for them deep in injury time. Pretty interesting match, this one, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, as you said, 2 red cards, a couple of goals apiece. It was pretty end-to-end football at times, but there was also times where Wanderers dominated. There was times where Adelaide dominated. And Adelaide had a sending off right on the cusp of half time. And when they come back for the second half, you wouldn't have even noticed they were down a man. They were just playing that well.
Adelaide just continue to surprise, really, don't they? And they've been, I guess, probably the second biggest surprise of the season with Central Coast's resurgence. But I remember watching Adelaide in, I think it was round 2 or even round 1, and they were terrible against Sydney. And I remember just thinking, oh, this young Adelaide team, they're just going to get spanked this year, and geez, it's going to be a tough year for them. But they've really just they're a really solid, close team, and they're really, really good to watch too. Look, I think both of the red cards were for teenagers. I think Lou Dorigo is still a teenager. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I thought he was 21, but I might be wrong.
Oh, there you go. He's still very young anyway. But Louis Dorigo, he got sent off for a second yellow card. And which of the 2 red cards do you think was more avoidable?
Definitely Mark Natters. It really showed his inexperience. That was just one of those ones where you probably shouldn't have even gave Mork that chance to get the touch around him. And then at that time, you'll back yourself to, chase Mork, get a block in, back your goalkeeper, but he just took him down blatantly. Yeah, that really showed his inexperience. And there's been talks of Western Sydney Wanderers getting rid of Tas Mudakudis to Newcastle Jets, but he showed when he come on as a sub after this happened, he showed that he's the far better defender. He's just had absolute composure on the ball, defended well, passed well, and I don't know if they're going to continue going with Mark Natter over Mudakudis in the future.
It's always really hard to tell with central defenders when they're so young. Like, obviously, Natter's young, he's inexperienced, he's shown that he could have quality, but he's made a couple of big mistakes in the last few weeks. So maybe some time out of the squad, some enforced time out might actually be a good thing for him at this point to sort of regain a little bit of composure and the like. But I guess I think this is a result that I think both teams would have been disappointed with, to be honest. Mate, still 3 matches to be played. Wellington are going to be playing Western United. Who's your pick for the winner in that one?
Ooh, that's one of those games where, I could go either way on that one, but I'm going to go with Wellington just more so because I hope that Wellington put in a couple of good performances and really make that battle for the top 6 interesting. Based on nothing else, just Wellington.
No, I think you could be onto something there, and I guess it depends. I guess for Western United, how on the fitness of Diamante. Like he showed last week that he only needs about 30 minutes to really turn a game on its head. So they'll be sweating on his fitness that he'll be able to start and play a full 90 minutes. And if not, Western United might be better off just to play him off the bench for the second half against some tiring legs.
Yeah, well,
Newcastle. Sorry, mate.
They've brought in some younger players to kind of try and fill that void when Diamante's been off, and Luke Duzel in particular has been doing, not as good as Diamante, obviously, but he's been doing a really good job. So Diamante off the bench for the rest of the season might be, the bet because he doesn't have the legs for the 90.
Oh, mate, it doesn't matter. Even if Diamante's not playing, they've still got Lachie Wales.
Yeah, the greatest of all time.
He's currently the best shit player in the A-League, I got to say.
Well, there was jokes last time I was on More Than a Game about Lockie Wales, and ever since then, I think he scored 2 goals, got a couple of assists. So, as long as we keep being not super friendly towards Lockie Wales, he'll keep up the form, and he might end up with a Golden Boot and the Ballon d'Or.
Johnny Warren medal inbound for Lockie Wales. Newcastle are also hosting Perth after hosting Melbourne Victory earlier this week. What's your pick for Newcastle versus Perth?
I'm going to go with a draw. I think Newcastle are going to put out a better performance. Stematolopoulos was really good last match. Some of the younger players were really good last match, but I just can't see them getting past Glory. I think 1-1 draw.
I actually, I'm thinking this one could be a bit of a goal fest because neither team can defend to save their lives, and both are actually decent going forward. So I reckon we could see maybe 3 goals apiece or something like that in this one. So might turn out to be a good game to watch.
Well, that would be more exciting than a 1-1.
And finally, Adelaide are hosting Macarthur in, I guess, two teams that started out the season really well, but have sort of faded in recent weeks. What's your pick in this one?
Just quickly on Adelaide, I do want to correct myself. I did look it up. Louis Dorigo is still 19. Don't know where I got 21 from.
I was right. Thank you.
But I really can't see Macarthur getting past Adelaide in this one. I might be wrong. I might end up looking like a clown and Macarthur beat them 4-5-0. But I just can't see Macarthur getting past Adelaide. The way Adelaide moved the ball, very quick on the transition, and Macarthur have been called out a lot this year when teams are exploiting their pace against them. Adelaide know how to exploit pace.
100%. Macarthur has shown that they're really good sort of when they get the ball under control and they try to dominate games, but you're right that they are very vulnerable on the counter-attack and on the transition, and that back three of I think it's Jovanovic, Milligan, and I keep forgetting the third defender that they have back there. Shushnia, thank you. The 3 of them are not quick. So you can just imagine the likes of Ben Halloran and co that are just going to have an absolute field day against this Macarthur backline. Mate, score prediction?
Let's say 4-0.
4-0. Oof. Not going to be a fun day for the Bulls. Bulls to the slaughter, if it were. Alrighty. We still have More Than a Game Survivor tipping going on. We're yet to have a winner. Maddie Olsen and HSN from Twitter are both exhausted. This is Survivor tipping in every sense of the word. Last few weeks we've been unable to split the two, and so we've just been replaying it each week. This week, Maddie Olsen has jumped out to an early lead, but with a couple of draws and no other successful winners, it means that Matt Olsen has currently got a lead going into the final 3 matches of the round. So good luck to those two, and hopefully we'll be able to get a winner so that we can wrap up this round of Survivor tipping. But good luck to both of them. Other than that, that's all we've got in terms of A-League, W League and Matildas for today. So thanks for joining us. Shannon, great to have you on the pod once again. Until next time, though,